Alright, I'm Sovereign Sage. We ran out of time in the last video. We're trying to do an investigation thing with Lynette. We're doing her hangout. I haven't even gotten one ending yet, so we're following a cat to try to find the guy who... The guy is from a family from the man who had kidnapped Lynette when she was a child. He was going to try to assault her and sell her off to someone else, but then that's when Chino saved her. So the guy is from that family. But he was like an illegitimate son or something. And we have the guy's cat that Lynette found. And he's like, the guy is wanted and we're trying to figure out where he is. So we're using the cat basically to lead us to the guy's secret lab. Where he used to make like the synth drug that he was addicted to. And along the way we run into Linny and Chevres. Because Linny was trying to investigate the guy on his own and he didn't want Lynette involved in it because he already knew that that guy tried to kidnap Lynette in the past, like the family, and he didn't want to drag that up on her, so he didn't want to bring up bad memories for her for when she was almost kidnapped, and maybe he did it out of a sign of concern. So we ran into him anyway, and we decided to join the investigation with him and Chevres, and now we're following that cat. Oh my god! I think my sound broke. Oh my god! Shouldn't have brought him down. Shit. I suppose it wouldn't have mattered. Why does the camera auto-rotate?
One with my blade. Search for it.
Pretty much.
Bow your head. Confess. Submit for judgment. Forward.
Yeah, they were trying to compare this game to Wuthering Waves, how you can switch your characters quickly in the middle of attacking, but you can do that here. That's why I was looking at. I was looking at it. I was like, you can do that here too. I mean, it is different because in Wuthering Waves, when you're like gliding or running up a wall, you can switch between characters quickly, and you actually can't do that here. But when you're attacking, you can toggle between them fast enough. Assuming I just go up here.
Wow, Lynette, you found this place so easily. If I thought there was any chance you'd say yes, I'd recruit you into the Special Patrol here and now. No questions asked.
Sounds familiar. I pretty much receive letters daily from people trying to poach her from me.
Jesus Christ. There's like 3 things wrong with that sentence. What the fuck? 1, she's his sister and he's acting as if though she's his wife, girlfriend. 2, he's referring to her as if though she's an animal, not a person, because she's a cat girl. And 3, what the fuck is with the obsession with your sister?
Let's just focus on our search. There's a lot to investigate.
Like, he seems like possessive, like, oh, she can't go anywhere, nobody can be near her, they're gonna take her from me. Like, is this an incest thing? You're making it sound like you're in love, obsessed with your own sister, and it's getting fucking weird. Oh my god. Alright. Investigate 3 areas. If they're there, then where's Lynette? Down there. Okay.
Aha! Just as we thought. This is where the imitation synth was being made.
Well, yeah, it's like an obvious jars in front of our face. These bottles and jars, they're all imitation synth?
Looks like he's got more than just imitation synth stashed around here. In addition to the raw materials needed to synthesize the substance itself, there's a large quantity of cleaning agents and a few drugs I haven't been able to identify. These cleaning agents are likely used to dispel traces of the substance, like its smell.
Oh.
The Special Patrol did some digging into imitation synth. Our records indicate that it's very difficult for ordinary people to detect traces left behind by the stuff. I'm sure that was the case for Pierre as well.
So, again, I think what she's trying to say that only people with elemental sight or people who have a vision will be able to see the traces that a person who doesn't wouldn't be able to tell.
It must have taken a considerable amount of time and skill to ensure all those traces get washed away. But what are these other drugs for?
But that don't make sense. If he wanted to get rid of the traces and Pierre obviously doesn't have a vision, then how would he know either? Oh, I'm getting confused. Yeah, I don't know.
The material these bags are made of, it's quite rare.
I keep laughing because I'm subbed to Sino's voice actor, and he played Lethal Company with the voice actors from this game, and as well as from Hankai. And I think they did a video where he played with Lenny's voice actor, and he kept dying. Daimon, I think Damon is his name. Is it Damon? And like, kept like dying right away, and it was like really funny. There was something with it, I don't remember. So now when I see the characters in game, my mind thinks of that. That's why I said I don't like to get invested in the voice actors, because it starts to ruin when I encounter them in game. Because then I start thinking about their actual voice actor, because their voice actors are people just like me. And I start thinking about the person and not the character. And I'm one of those people that I can detach the two from each other, but at the same time I see that person as a character, so when they do something that is not like the character, it kind of ruins my vision or look of the character, because I'm like, oh, you're someone who's this, you know. A good example of what I mean is Hazo's voice actor, Keegan Ragan, likes to eat the Kerrygold butter. So now every time I see Hazo, I just picture him nibbling on a fucking stick of butter, and that's what I mean. I don't want their real life tendencies to affect the character tendencies, because then what the voice actor does, I see the character doing, and it ruins how I feel about the character, because I see them doing something that the real voice actor does, not what the character itself does, because the characters are fake, made up, fictional shit, but the real person is a real person, and I don't want their real lifeness to be affecting the fakeness. I mean, it's not, that isn't right. That's not right to call it fakeness. I just don't want real life and fiction to conflict. Like real life and fantasy, I don't want them to conflict with each other, and that's confliction to me. It's just hard to explain it. Like, I get so used to hearing somebody as a character that I always hear them, like Yuri Lowenthal's in this game as Dane, but I knew him as Sasuke from Naruto first. So every time he talks, all I hear is Sasuke. Doesn't matter what he voices. He could just talk to me normally, and I'm like, Sasuke. And, like, that's what I mean. And there's a lot of people that are like that, too. Like, you get so used to hearing somebody as a character that you can't unhear them as it. So, like, I just don't want these characters to be ruined. Like, that's why I said I don't like to focus on the real-life voice actors. I don't have anything against them, though. I'm sure he's a sweet man in real life. It's just, I don't want to focus on who they are outside of the game. I mean, that probably sounds mean, I know. That's just, it's not what I mean. I can never say what I mean. I mean, it's just, I'm just a normal person. I would never get to meet or talk to them anyway, not in a million years. Like, I feel like I would never be able to speak to them. I'm just someone. But still, like, I'd prefer it if I don't, you know what I mean? Don't interact with them. And especially with what happened with Tainari's old voice actor, I definitely don't want to interact with any of them on any social media. I don't mean that towards them, though. I just, because of that, I kind of feel weary. Because I'm one of those people that I want to get close to people. I mean, like, really close to them. When I accept somebody as my friend, I accept them as who they are, inside and out. And I like to know, like, personal things about them because it makes me closer to them. And that's what I mean. Like, sometimes you get a little too close to people and it becomes fucking weird. Like, I've been through that, is what I'm saying. So, doesn't it look similar to the material used for your magic pockets?
It's the very same, actually. Romaritime flower fiber. But there's something special about the composition of these bags. I took a closer look, and it appears they're not only waterproof, but also corrosion and leak resistant.
So they're storing it inside.
Even the strings look specially designed to keep the bags closed nice and tight. I came across some bags made of the same material just now, but they were much smaller and thinner. From the look of them, they seemed far less durable as well.
So, kind of like one of those small sealed bags.
Very similar, actually. Normally, it would be easy for a guard poodle to sniff out the imitation synth, but if it was sealed away in a bag like that, it might be possible to elude detection for some time. But what could these big bags be for then? If the goal is to keep the imitation synth hidden and sealed away, these bags seem a bit too conspicuous.
Yeah, he's right. I don't know, it's just sometimes I don't like to say stuff like that because I don't word it right and it comes out sounding like, oh, you just don't want to get close to them. It's like, well, actually, that's not it. I'm just somebody who cares about people too much. I get too close and it becomes hard to let go. That if anything goes wrong that breaks my friendship, it ruins everything for me permanently. That if I ever got close to one of these voice actors and I had a falling out with them, I would dare hate the fucking character. I would see their character that they voiced and I'd be like, fuck you! You know what I mean? And I don't want to be like that. I like these characters, but if I can't separate the person from the character, it makes it that much harder, is what I'm getting at. I should have just said that. Hello.
When Lamar Jose Phantom searched Pierre's house, there was no sign of these barrels, right?
He must have moved them, but carrying them all the way out here would attract way too much attention.
You're right. That doesn't seem like his way of doing things. How did he get them here then?
Examine the barrels. The barrel shows signs of water damage. Dried up water stains could be seen around the circumference of the barrels. Was that flash? What the hell? There seems to be a pattern to the location of the water stains. For some reason, the lighting is freaking out. They appear to be limited to the lower half of the barrels, which means they were submerged in water. The lids don't seem very tight, leaving sizable gaps around the edges, but there doesn't appear to be any traces of water inside the barrels.
Only the lower halves of the barrels appear to have been submerged in water.
I don't know. I just feel
Based
like
on the
I
various
can't word
ingredients
things
we
correctly.
found, this appears to be where Pierre was cooking up his imitation synth. It looks like he used a special cleaning agent to get rid of any residual traces of the substance on his person before he left. That's how he was able to get past the guard poodles.
I don't know, I just feel like a lot of people probably feel the same way I do, you know what I mean? Like, when you get close to someone and they're voicing something and then you have a falling out with them, it ruins how you feel about that character, because you don't see the character as the character, you see the character as that person you had a falling out with. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's what's so hard about people that are in this profession, because I'm sure they must have had, they're real people just like me and you, I'm sure they must have had issues with people along their life, and then when people see them in something, they're just like, ugh, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be, I don't have anything against any of the voice actors, I actually like a lot of them. I didn't even know that they voiced in stuff until then. Like, when I was doing stuff on Sino, I didn't realize he voiced in a lot of stuff, like a lot of animes and stuff I've watched. I had no idea that he was in stuff that I've already seen. It kind of freaked me the hell out when I realized that, because he's like the only one I follow from this game. I don't follow anyone else. I follow him and Ether to be, not Ether, Zach specifically. They're voice actors I follow. The other ones I do not. That's why the Maritashi Phantom didn't find anything suspicious in his home.
So then he transferred the imitation synth into small sealed bags and took it somewhere else for the drop-off.
No. I don't believe our suspect is the kind of person who'd go around carrying incriminating evidence with him. That would potentially create too many eyewitnesses. The cleaning agent and the sealed bags might get past the guard poodles. But if a member of the public or even a guard on patrol happened to see him during the drop-off, a quick search would reveal everything. That's still a very risky operation.
What about if the drop-off happened at sea? There'd be no one around to see him.
The barrels we found were wet around the base, but the top half was dry. As if they'd been standing upright in the water.
Like, he placed them in the water and then would put the materials inside. And then have somebody else come pick them up. Yeah.
If you put a barrel in the water, it will normally float on its side. Unless it's heavily loaded, in which case it'll sink.
So he must have used something to tightly seal big, to tightly seal big bags full of air. Turning them into airtight flotation devices.
Yes. With flotation rings around the body of the barrels, they'd stay upright in the water. And then he could afford to load them more fully.
Mm-hmm. That's what those other bags were found that we've seen.
You think he used floating barrels? I suppose if he acted at night, when there are very few other boats around and visibility is low, it's a valid theory. We can't rule it out.
But then, wouldn't the barrels be carried off by the waves or the currents? How would the person doing the pickup know where to look?
Barrels that could float away and get lost at sea. Sounds difficult to keep in one place, kind of like certain pets.
Traveler, can you come take a dip in the sea with me?
What?
I have a feeling that somewhere down there, we might find some rope. If a rope can be used to keep a pet from running away, then why not a barrel?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Weird way of wording it. My god, I can't fucking talk. Ugh, because my mind is so distracted. It could be my ADHD, it does act up pretty bad, but I don't think that's it though. You know, I've had this my whole life. I was born with fucking ADHD and I've been able to handle things just fine. Don't you leave, you crab! I'm just worried about what I said. I just don't want people to take it wrong. I really do not have problems with the voice actors from this game. I don't know. I have a fear of getting close to people. And I don't want my relationships with the characters to be ruined by the real people who voice them. You know? That's all I'm trying to say. Because I have issues with people, especially men in general. I'm not afraid to admit that. And I don't want to get close to them and have something go wrong. Besides, I feel like they're too... somebody like me would never even be able to be their friend. Somebody like me would never even be able to speak to them at all. Somebody like me is probably not good enough to be noticed by them. That's what I was getting at too. That's okay though. I don't mind.
The wreckage of a small boat?
Should I have used Lynette for this? I like this song. This song, it fills me with like a sense of peace. Like a sense of just being. You know, ever since I was a kid, I've always been attached to water, even though I'm an Aries. I was born under a fire sign, but both my parents are water signs. My father is a Scorpio, and my mother's an Aquarius. My dad was born actually on Halloween in October. My mother was born 2 days after Valentine's in February. So, but basically, I think a Scorpio is a water sign. But basically, I've been drawn to water. It always calms me down, and it still does even to this day. Like, even though I'm 30, turning 31 next month, like, water calms me down when I'm upset or frustrated. When I'm near it, it's like it feels like something in me just calms down. I feel that peace with myself and with everything. And when I'm near water in general, I feel like I can just let everything go, all my feelings and everything. I don't know how to explain it. Even when I see it in games, it fills me with a sense of calmness. It's kind of weird, I know.
This isn't the place.
This isn't it. Search again. I didn't need it, but
this
you never.
Isn't the place.
This is a small radius, though. Where do you want me to go? Huh? Seems to be something over there. Perception check success. Ah.
Got it. Time to go up and report.
Yeah, because he tied a rock to them. Thought that would have been obvious. That's what I liked about this new region. The fact that you could go underwater, I feel like that was like revolutionary for this game. Because you could never do it before. I felt like something followed me out of the water for a minute. I was about to say, what the hell?
As expected, we found a few pieces of rope and some anchoring stones underwater. If you attach them to a floating barrel, it would look like this. With this anchoring system, it would be possible to use floating barrels for the drop-off. You would just need to drop them in the water at the agreed-upon location. We also came across the wreckage of a small boat. It must have been left out on the water and capsized due to the force of the wind and waves. Its small size, however, would have made it perfect for staying undetected.
Let's talk this through. Based on the evidence we've collected, it seems like Pierre would row a small boat out to the agreed-upon transfer point, drop off the barrels, leave, and then row back and retrieve them after the transfer was complete.
Why use such a convoluted drop-off method, though? Wouldn't it be easier for both parties to meet up at the transfer point on their respective vessels and exchange the goods right then and there?
It could be that he was trying to avoid meeting up with his associate face-to-face. As one of the sole survivors of the Lefebvre family, maybe he was just used to that sort of elusive lifestyle.
I suppose you're right.
It seems like Pierre deliberately chose the floating barrel method so that the goods could be dropped off and picked up at separate times. That way, the two parties wouldn't have to meet each other.
Well, if that's the case, they must not have a very close working relationship.
Yeah, if you're avoiding meeting the person you're getting stuff from, that's saying something right there.
Let's not jump to any conclusions just yet. Assumptions can be detrimental to solving a case. It's possible they were just trying to keep a low profile. Two boats sailing to the same location at once could be too conspicuous. The most important thing is that we can now confirm Pierre wasn't acting alone. The floating barrel drop-off system is proof enough of that. Let's say for now that he was only in charge of producing the imitation synth. That would mean there has to be at least one other person involved in the operation, likely in charge of transporting the goods across the border.
That explains why we couldn't find evidence linking him to any overseas operations.
Since we've determined that the goods were transported by boat, maybe we can track down some travel logs or something.
Wouldn't they be lost under the water, then?
We can certainly check the various ports for that information. It's possible, however, that Pierre's associate also used a small boat for the transport, and docked along the shore rather than at a large port. If that's the case, it's unlikely there would be any record left behind.
Have you looked into the ports already?
Absolutely. Before Pierre disappeared, we made sure to investigate all sorts of outward-bound vessels. We also had port authorities keep a lookout for anything suspicious. Unfortunately, we were never able to find out how they managed to get the imitation synth across the border.
A small boat and a few barrels isn't going to get you very far.
You're right. Whatever vessel was used for the pickup, the person responsible for smuggling the substance out of Fontaine would have had to use a larger vessel for the actual transport. That's the only way they would be able to smuggle on a large enough scale to make a profit. They must have found a way to disguise the imitation synth to clear port inspections.
Well, even if we can't find any travelogues, we can still search for other clues.
Exactly. We can't let any opportunities slip through the cracks. Although, given the amount of ports that could be involved, we should probably split up.
So you're gonna go with Winnie then, and I'm gonna go with her?
I'll run home and ask some of my brothers and sisters to try and dig up some information.
I should also head back and update my platoon on our progress. I'll grab some reinforcements while I'm at it. Lynette, Traveler, why don't you head to Lumiduce Harbor and see what you can find out?
Okay, I guess she's not going with him.
All right. Come on, Bonnie. You too.
The cat speaks. Alright. That damn crab, it's elusive. Good. I'm losing my mind. No, I need them to make a, there's a thing I use that increases my attack. It increases my attack, and I need those. I think it's a crab and a ham or something like that. For the Adeptus, thing. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a giant golden pot. I think it's called a Deptal something. My god, my game is hating this shit. Yeah, I can't show it because I don't have it, but it's like an Adeptal thing.
Oh, Lynette, Traveler. And Bonnie, too. What brings you all here?
Oh yeah, it's her. That's the girl we met. In my last video, we met this girl disguised in like a red dress, and she was trying to say, "Oh, that cat's my cat," and that guy's like, "No, it's not. It's mine." Like, that's why she knows the cat's name. She's from the last video, if you didn't see it.
Did something happen?
We're here to check the travel logs. You update them on the situation.
I see. Thank you for everything you're doing for the people of Fontaine.
What are you doing here?
I'm in charge of guarding the port. You mentioned you were after some travelogues, right? I can go fetch those for you.
Okay.
Looks like I got another hard day of work ahead of me.
Are things usually pretty hectic around here?
No, not usually. It's this incident that happened recently. Before that, everything was normal. All we had to do was confiscate anything suspicious and we could call it a day. Pretty simple stuff. But things are much more complicated now. We somehow let suspicious cargo pass through the port undetected. Not even our guard poodles were able to sniff it out. Even worse, we still don't know how the perpetrator was able to conceal the goods so well.
By suspicious cargo, do you mean imitation synth?
Yep.
Oh,
However, prohibited substances are just one example. We confiscate all sorts of contraband during the course of our inspections. Or at least, we're supposed to.
So what happens to the goods you confiscate?
Oh, we keep them in a storage locker. If they turn out to be something particularly dubious, we'll turn them over to the Maison Orderly. If the goods are only slightly suspicious but could otherwise be harmless, like raw materials that could potentially be used to create contraband, we return them to the ship they were confiscated from, instead of letting them pass through the port.
Sorry for the wait. These are the travelogues for all the recent activity at the port.
Oh, you brought Gerard with you.
Actually, he followed me here himself. It's like he smells something on me. Huh. I wonder why Gerard is reacting to you two so strongly.
Could it be because we just left the place where the imitation was made? Whatever Gerard smelled on you probably came from us. Could it be because we just left the place where the... Should we be telling her that?
No. We were so careful not to touch it, but we still ended up with traces on us. If it leaves a residue so easily, I just don't understand how the culprit was able to disguise the goods at all.
Why don't you have a look at the travelogues first? All ships coming in and out of the port are recorded here, except for the ones the port authorities ride to and from work.
Okay, you tripped through you flipped through the numerous travelogues. You notice several instances where the Humane Society is listed. The name really seems to stand out. That was the guy who was trying to get the cat. He said he was from there. See, this is what I meant when I said in my last video that when they have text that goes on the screen, they need to let the player confirm it. Because, see, they do it here, but there's other instances where they have a whole line of text and it stays on the screen for like 2 to 3 seconds and you can't read all of it. That's already happened to me twice, where I have to like speed read it, and it kind of just sucks. Because then I'm one of those people that if I don't have the time to actually read what I'm reading, it just goes completely through me, and it's like I can't focus on what I just read. Like, I'll read it, but I didn't gain any knowledge. Like, I didn't gain any information. It was like I just read it, but my mind didn't register what I read. In other words.
The Humane Society.
We've encountered that organization before, right?
Their name is all over the exit logs. The purpose for leaving is always listed as overseas adoption.
The director of the organization explained that, actually. He said a lot of the cat and dog breeds unique to Fontaine are also very popular overseas. So his organization offers an overseas adoption program.
Bernard, the director of the Humane Society, was the man who came looking for Bonnie earlier.
The cat that fled from Pierre looks just like the cat that the Humane Society is looking for. Could that really be a coincidence? No. It seemed as if Bernard was also hiding something. He seemed so insistent, but only ran a courtesy check before just leaving like that. When he came looking for Bonnie earlier, what if he wasn't actually there to check if Bonnie was his missing cat? Maybe he was there for some other purpose.
Have you figured it out too, Traveler? The way the criminal disguised the goods?
Oh no, are you telling me they put them in they put the drugs in the animals? Oh, that is so fucked up.
When Bernard asked to take a closer look at Bonnie, he was actually checking whether there was any imitation synth in her stomach.
He was using the animals at his shelter.
Wait, what?
The sealed bags we found at the secret base. They were specially made to be corrosion resistant.
So that they wouldn't be digested.
And there were gaps around the lids of the barrels, and airbags were used to keep them upright in the water.
So that the animals would be able to breathe.
Those drug shippers found at the secret base. She most likely didn't recognize them because they're not used on human beings. It's an anesthetic used on pets. The perpetrator must have given it to the animals.
So that they would keep still in the floating barrels.
Pierre must have made the animals swallow the sealed bags full of imitation synth at his secret base. Then he stuffed them into floating barrels and left the rest to Bernard.
The sealed bags combined with an animal's body odor would certainly be enough to mask the scent of imitation synth.
During our inspections, we would have never thought to inspect the bellies of those animals for anything suspicious. Even if we tried to feel around for something, I'm sure it would be difficult to detect.
That's also really fucked up, because if you make the animals swallow the medicine, or the pills, the drugs, how do you get it out of them except for cutting their guts open? I hate to be so gruesome about it, but that is so fucked up. But I was just saying in my last video that this game does have adult themes, and that it needed more adult themes, because they keep making it seem like only 14-year-olds play this, because I was in a thing on Pinterest where I chimed in on about a character, because there was a character that did something and everybody's like, look at this shit. Who gets off on this? Nothing but little 14-year-olds play this. And everybody kept saying, oh, I'm 14 and I play this. No adults play this when I've been playing it since this game first released and I'm 30. So that's why I was saying that ain't true. That they really do have adult themes in this game. They're just subtle enough that you probably wouldn't notice it if you are a kid.
Exactly.
Even
I
she
bet
agrees.
Bernard even transported animals with synth in their stomach alongside ones without. That way, it would be even harder to say with certainty that something was amiss.
Do you think Bonnie could have imitation synth in her stomach?
She's probably in the clear. Otherwise, Bernard would have never left without her. I'm guessing he didn't know whether Pierre had already hidden the next batch of imitation synth before he fled. Just imagine. He sees the notice we put in the Steambird, and it turns out that one of the very cats he gave to Pierre for the smuggling operation is out in the open, roaming the streets of Fontaine. If Pierre had already hidden the next batch of imitation synth, then Bonnie would practically be living proof of their crimes. He would have had no choice but to go after her.
So, that's why he came to find you and insisted on taking a closer look at the count.
Pierre must have fled in a hurry. The fact is probably what spared Bonnie. That fact is probably what spared her.
Wait a second, I'm a little lost here. I get the part about hiding the substance in the pets, but those, what did you call them again? Floating barrels? Why even put the animals in there in the first place? If you've got something as convenient as a floating barrel, why not just stuff it with the imitation synth directly? Why not wait to hide the stuff until after the exchange has been made?
In order to make sure the animals could swallow the sealed bags, they made them extremely thin. Had they not done that, the animals would have likely bitten or chewed through them.
And if any of the imitation synth leaked out, they also would have needed a lot of cleaning agents to get rid of the resulting smell.
That step would have required a lot of energy, as well as a certain amount of technical expertise. So, it was better left to the more experienced Pierre. We've already proven how easy it is to pick up trace amounts of imitation synth, so I'm sure Bernard was taking all the precautions he could to avoid the same fate.
Okay. Then, let's head to the Humane Society right away and bring that guy to justice. I'll bring a guard to speed up the process.
Oh, jeez. Look the way she's staring at me. She's like,
Sorry, but I can't go with you. Surely you'll be able to handle him, what, between Elodie's Gardamek and all
what
three
the
of you?
hell was that? Did you see something? Oh, it's the bird. Yeah. What the? Okay, I thought I had saw something blink blast me. It was actually that bird's shadow. I thought I was freaking out. Okay. Good to know. She has that cute look on her face, like, that's what I'm saying. What, you want to go with me? But then she's like, oh, I can't go with you. Also, one of my roommates, we threw him out, but one of my other roommates let him back in, and he was in the damn bathroom throwing up. Every time I clean that bathroom and our sink and the toilet, he throws up all over them again. Pisses me off. As a woman, I have to sit on that toilet. It's fucking disgusting. I swear to God. Oh.
The headquarters of the Humane Society should be somewhere around here. Bernard could show up any moment now.
Flowers under the light. I only wanted to be noticed by him just as they were. Anyway.
You're the people from earlier. Wait, you're from the guards?
Of course. Grab him! What's going on?
After him! We can't let him get away!
Well, let me move.
Give it up, Bernard.
That's why they let you play as Lynette for that part, because she has a fucking sprint mechanic. If you've never played as her, you wouldn't know that. But yeah. I mean, that's why they give the trials for each character before you get them. They let you test them out. But yeah, that's one of her, it's her R2.
Mercy. Mercy. I'll tell you everything I know.
The Humane Society has done so much good over the years, and yet you have committed such an atrocious deed in its name.
Look, I didn't have a choice, okay? My father cared about those blasted animals so much, he didn't bother to take care of his human wife and son at all. While those animals were showered with love, I lived worse than a dog.
No one asked. Tell me, how did you first get to know Pierre?
Well, after I took over the Humane Society, it gradually became harder and harder to maintain its operations. Until one day, someone suddenly passed me a letter. It said that I could stand to get a large sum of money as long as I helped them to transport some animals abroad. It was only after a few such transports that I finally understood what I was really transporting. But then, Pierre wrote to me, saying that we were already partners in crime and that I better keep cooperating with him if I didn't want to be reported to the guards. I would order wooden barrels and flotation devices according to his instructions, and then load the sleeping animals onto a boat. Once I sailed to the location he provided, I would dump everything together into the sea. And a few days after that, I'd come by again in my boat and pick up the animals sleeping in the barrels. Once I had received enough of them, I'd bring them to the harbor to be adopted abroad. That guy Pierre, he was running the entire show. He set up all the meeting times and found all the foreign adopters. Oh, and he even supplied all of the goods too. I just did the transport. He was the one who planned out and executed everything else.
So where is he now?
Look, I don't know, okay? I've never ever met him in person. We've only ever communicated through letters.
And when did he send his final letter to you?
Yesterday.
Just last night. He said that the Marechaussee Phantom is now after him, so he's planning to go into hiding for some time. He didn't mention where he's thinking about going, though, but he did tell me to look out for the guards.
It's been a few days since Pierre's last appearance. I'd wager that he sent that letter after he found his hiding spot.
So where is that letter now?
I burned them. It was on his orders. I had to burn every letter after reading them. I wasn't even allowed to share them with the rest of the society employees.
Sure sounds like you're trying to use the lack of witnesses or evidence to pin the blame on Pierre.
No, I swear, this time I'm only telling you the truth.
Well, we can check the truth of your statements at the Opera House. I hope you know what'll be coming for you if I were to find any discrepancy between the evidence and the testimony you just gave.
I know, I swear I was just telling the truth.
My thanks to you both. Had it not been for you, I really don't know what would have happened to this case.
Bonnie helped, too.
That's true. It was all thanks to her that Bernard was finally exposed.
She's like, gotcha. Bonnie suddenly runs and hides behind you and Lynette.
And it looks like she's grown quite fond of you two as well. Then I'll leave you be. Just let me know if you find any other new leads.
Oh. Lynette's expression seems a bit unnatural. It seems that Lynette still has something on her mind. Well, yeah, the animals. I am glistening with animal energy. I think he's the only character that radiates his energy like that when you switch to him. If you go like this and then go like this. Yeah, he's like the only character that does this. I don't know why. Oh, well, Risley does it too when you switch into a different stance, he'll glow, but like from switching characters, from like switching here and then back like this, as far as I know, Hazo is the only character that does this. I don't know why. I don't know. Something on your mind still?
It was that obvious, huh? Well, even though it didn't feel like Bernard was lying, after talking to him, I'm getting an even stronger sense that something's not quite right. We investigated so quickly that perhaps we've missed a thing or two along the way. Let me activate deduction mode and consider things again from the top to see if we can find anything new. Is there still anything unresolved or strange that we should try to consider?
What about what we found in Poisson, about Bernard's letters? There's an unexplained part in the operations of this trafficking ring.
Well, we've discovered that Bernard is responsible for the trafficking, while Pierre deals with supplying the goods. Is there something else in this scheme that we're missing?
Yeah, where is it going to and to who? Oh, here we go again. Is there anything else that... Oh god, is there anything else that is difficult to explain? Handoff, ledger, communication, connections. Yeah. Any past member of the Lafayette family would probably have a number of connections outside of Fontaine. Communication, handoff. We've already proven that Bernard and Pierre coordinated their handoffs by passing okay. They always communicated in writing, and all of those letters have been burned, so we can no longer confirm it or trace anything. According to Chavra's investigations, Pierre has been formally reprimanded for his synth-related research and can no longer get any materials from the Fontaine Research Institute. Bernard can be compensated for his work after completing a shipment. No suspicious records would be left as long as he receives the funds as an individual rather than through the Humane Society. No, I don't think that can be used to answer the question at hand.
There's no need to rush. Let's see if we can find any other suspicious points about this case.
About what we found in Poisson.
The Marechaussee Phantom found Bonnie and the Lefebvre pendant at Pierre's residence. That was the beginning point of our investigation.
Oh, jeez. Why is Pierre a suspect? The pet handoff, Bonnie. Bonnie has been with Pierre ever since the first meeting between Pierre and the Marechaussee Phantom, and that's why Elodie came looking for her, but that shouldn't be all. The pendant. The pattern on the pendant is proof that its owner is an illegitimate child of the Lefebvre family, but that shouldn't be all. The end of the Lefebvre. Yeah, the Lefebvre family is infamous in Fontaine, and even their innocent scions became targets of revenge. But Pierre just carried the pendant with him as if it was an ordinary piece of jewelry. Pierre became the key suspect in the case because of a suspicious cat and a suspicious pendant. According to Bernard, the trafficked animals were taken directly to Pierre's base rather than to Poisson. No.
There's no need to rush.
I think I'm doing it wrong.
Bernard claims to have received a letter last night from Pierre. In the letter, Pierre stated that he had gone into hiding. Is there something wrong with the letter?
I think I'm just fucking doing it wrong. The lone cat. Bonnie had already been on that loose for a few days when we found her yesterday morning. That means that she had already broken free when the letter was written. The letter's purpose. If the point of the letter was to tell Bernard to be on his guard, then why didn't it also warn him about Bonnie? Escape location. The letter didn't mention Pierre's hiding spot, although it makes sense that Pierre wouldn't want anyone to find him. Regardless of whether he sent it anonymously or secretly delivered it himself, it's no longer something we can follow up on. I did it wrong again.
If Bonnie had imitation synth in her body, then she was a liability that had to be recovered at all costs. But if she wasn't carrying anything, then it would have made sense to tell Bernard not to worry. And thinking about it, Bernard only attracted our attention in the first place because he came to look for Bonnie. Could it be that the person who wrote the letter also knew nothing about Bonnie's whereabouts? Or they had a separate goal entirely?
I think what it could have been too is the fact that Bonnie was actually his personal cat, so he wouldn't have used the stuff on her, but kept her around as a disguise. Like, oh, I care for animals, you know what I mean? Like,
Now behave, and follow me to the interrogation room.
That hurt.
On completion, they're about to leave. Is it really okay to let them go? Adequate preparation and friendly aid can also sometimes affect the result of these checks. Your current check bonuses will be added to your randomly drawn number, making it easier to pass checks. 20. No, we can't let her get away. Hold it right there.
Is there something else you need from me, Traveler?
Bernard and Pierre, they weren't really acting alone, were they?
Huh?
I see. It all makes sense now.
Hey, what are you talking about? Look, even our confessed criminal here has no idea what you're saying.
Remember when she came back and the dog started barking at her? And we're like, it only knows of traces of the stuff, but we never actually took her with us to see the stuff when we went. And the dog was actually following her and had barked at her specifically and not us. See what I mean?
Because he has been kept in the dark all along. And I assume it's the same with Pierre.
Bernard thought he was communicating with Pierre, and Pierre thought he was taking orders from Bernard. But for all this time, neither of them knew that there was a third person all along.
That never quite added up for me. Why did Pierre feel compelled to return to his home with Bonnie and the pendant, and make them so easy to find for the Marechaussee Phantom?
Any animals Pierre received from the floating barrel should have been taken directly to his base. And considering his precarious situation, the pendant should have been the last thing Pierre would leave lying around.
Both of these things are in stark contrast to his usual meticulous and vigilant behavior. There's only one reasonable explanation. He was following orders, just like Bernard. He probably received the following instructions right before the Phantom came knocking on his door. Bring the cat and the pendant, and our undercover agent will be sure to help you. Unbeknownst to him, however, the third person who wrote that letter to him had long decided to sacrifice him and Bernard to save themselves.
They instructed the two men to communicate through letters and barrels specifically so that they'd never get a chance to meet each other. Honestly, this third person probably planned to sell them both out from the very beginning.
What? You can't be serious. There was a third person involved?
And she's standing right in front of you.
If you focus only on Bernard's testimony, it's easy to believe that only Bernard and Pierre were working together. The case appeared extremely simple. Bernard did the trafficking, Pierre the imitation synth production, drugging, and stuffing.
With everything accounted for, the third person would then be cleared of all suspicion.
Wait. But that doesn't make any sense. If that's the actual truth, then as soon as Pierre is caught, he'll explain his side of the story and the third person will...
Yep, which is why the third person made sure that Pierre would never be found again. Once they had instructed Pierre to expose himself, the third person wrote to Pierre again, suggesting that everything had been taken care of, and he should take Bonnie and safely return to his base.
They then ambushed Pierre and made him disappear.
Of course, Pierre's disappearance at such a sensitive time immediately made him a prime suspect. Knowing that Bonnie had last been seen with him, all the third person would have to do from that point on would be to lead the Phantom to investigate the Humane Society and get Bernard to confess the truth.
Bernard would then testify that Pierre was the one who came up with the whole plot, and Pierre would be seen as having gone into hiding in anticipation of getting caught.
Wait, so you're saying that the letter I received yesterday, the one that made me think Pierre was still alive, it was also sent by the third person?
Is that what happened? I'll get back to headquarters right away and reinvestigate this case from the top.
Not so fast.
Chevra said that assumptions can be detrimental to solving a case. Someone among us, however, has been feeding us all kinds of preconceived notions ever since our first meeting. They suggested that Pierre's disappearance was an attempt to escape the judgment of the law, and that Pierre was a scion of the Lefevre family.
Look at the way they spelled it. It should be Lef as in L-E-F, and it's L-E-V. E-V-V-E-R. Oh my god. That's a typo.
But if the disappearance is truly just a cover-up for a murder, then couldn't the true scion have been an illegitimate daughter, rather than an illegitimate son?
Miss Elodie Lafayette.
Huh?
You would found the fuck out.
Have you taken this joke a bit too far? You're right. I did let a lot of assumptions get to my head when I first started to talk to you about the case. I'll make sure to correct my behavior.
You deliberately fed us lies, but even you could not control every last detail of your plan. There was a flaw in your scheme, and something didn't quite go as planned. Getting the Marchose Phantom to notice Pierre was only the first part of your plan. Had they failed to take notice of the Humane Society, they could have cast a wider net, and you couldn't predict what they might possibly find, if given enough time. This, of course, was the main weakness of your plan.
And once the Special Patrol and Lenny got involved, it became even harder to control the outcome of the investigation.
As someone accustomed to acting from behind the scenes, you didn't want to take the risk of personally proposing a raid on the Humane Society. So, you thought about pulling a few more strings, so all the suspicion would point towards Bernard and his society.
A great option, of course, would be to also dispose of Bonnie and leave her body at Pierre's base in anticipation of a later discovery.
Once the Phantom expanded their search, it would only be a matter of time before they found Pierre's base. If a cat last seen with the suspect turned up dead at the imitation synth base, it wouldn't be long until the Phantom would figure out exactly how she had been mistreated and turn their eyes towards the one organization that has been sending boatloads of animals out of Fontaine.
However, something unexpected happened at the base. Bonnie managed to escape in the chaos.
It was probably during your ambush of Pierre. You didn't even have the time to check if she had already been stuffed full of imitation synth.
But she wasn't.
Still, you soon found another opportunity. Before long, Bonnie had made her way back into the city, and even popped up on the Steambird. Like Bernard, you desperately wanted to confirm the contents of her stomach, so you hurried to find us. Unlike Bernard, however, you were hoping that Pierre did have the time to make her swallow a load of imitation synth.
Oh my god.
While investigating the suspect's cat, we unexpectedly discovered that the suspect has been smuggling imitation synth using living animals as intermediaries. That was your plan, in any case. With that, you'd have been able to lead the investigation towards the Humane Society.
But Bonnie was very lucky, but you were extremely unlucky. But Bonnie was lucky.
Bonnie had managed to escape before Pierre was able to stuff her full of imitation synth. That part of your plan could no longer be carried out. But as shrewd as you were, you came up with another plan right away. You manipulated the Traveler and I to help you identify Bernard as a key suspect.
The way she came walking towards me suddenly was fucking weird. I do like when characters interact like that in cutscenes because it feels more realistic, but when they suddenly walk towards you like that, it's like, bro. You knew Lenny was investigating the case with Chevres, and you also knew of Lynette's previous encounter with the Lefebvre family.
You used the Lefebvre name as bait to get us to join your investigation. With 2 extra bodies around, the Special Patrol is sure to soon take note of the strange event of Bernard somehow having a reason to look for Pierre's cat.
So, what you're saying is, I went to all that trouble just for the chance that you might put forth the suggestion that would lead you down the wrong path.
Of course, you did far more than that. Just now at Lumidu's Harbor, were you not the person who highlighted the suspicious activities of the Society?
By showing us the port's travelogue.
You even highlighted the Society's activities during your compilation of the logs, so they'd be immediately visible to anyone examining the records. Moreover, the logs contained no records of the Port Authority's activities. In other words, your activities.
And what are you trying to suggest with that?
I am insinuating that you had plenty of opportunities to transfer the raw materials for imitation synth from the harbor to a boat, and then sail over to the meeting place full of floating barrels.
Once Bernard had placed the animals in the barrels, you'd open the lids and also dump in the raw materials. As long as you did it before Pierre came for his pickup, there'd be no one the wiser.
And that's how neither the trafficker nor the manufacturer knew there was a third person who supplied the raw materials and surreptitiously operated between them.
First, you got in touch with both parties and secured the raw materials. Then you instructed Bernard to prepare the floating barrels and the animals. After that, you slipped the raw materials into the barrels next to the animals and requested that Pierre pick up the barrels and bring them back to his base.
Pierre manufactured imitation synth using the raw materials you provided, stuffed the animals, and placed the animals back into the barrels. Having received the green light from you as Pierre, Bernard then retrieved his animals and shipped them out of Fontaine once he had received enough for a full batch. This is the truth behind your smuggling ring.
I can't believe it. I never put 2 and 2 together.
You've sure got an extremely lively imagination.
So what do you think she's going to say next?
Ever thought about a career in writing crime novels? But do you have any evidence?
But do you have any evidence?
It appears that it's quite easy to predict what you'll think or say. Then if we apply that to this case, we can also think of a few places to look for incriminating evidence. You know very well that this case will not end until Pierre is found. So you will have him commit suicide out of fear and shame to end the investigation for good. That way, you can also pin the blame for the overseas smuggling activities, the theft of the harbor's confiscated raw materials, and even the Lefebvre name on him. After all, dead men tell no tales. But you still wanted to appear as if he had sent that last letter to Bernard, so you have to make sure he cannot be found until after Bernard has confessed to the authorities. To do that, you either will hide his body until you've found an appropriate time to set up a fake suicide scene, or you'll dump it someplace where it'll be hard to determine the exact time of death. Submerged in water, for instance.
Oh god, a human body in water for long periods of time is not a pretty sight. It really isn't.
The location would ideally allow you to keep the body hidden for some time while also letting you keep an eye on it.
You could also keep him in a very cool environment to be handled later, or set a fire to make it look like he had burned himself to a crisp, or underneath the waters near Lumine's harbor. An example of such a place may be somewhere in your own boat. Where we should keep the body? Well, this one definitely isn't it. She wouldn't have put him on her own boat. She would need him in a cool place. Underneath the harbor, no one would ever know.
There are only so many options to hide a person's time of death, after all. As long as the Phantom investigates each of the possibilities in turn, they'll surely find Pierre's remains. Especially since, as the prime suspect who will now be taken into custody, you will no longer have the time to move him, or set up a fake suicide scene to cover up the murder.
How absurd. And on what grounds will you order my arrest? Don't think for a second that your spouts of nonsense will amount to any kind of real argument. After all, I'm...
Elodie Lefebvre!
I like how they just come out of nowhere! my god. You can't fight two fire users, and Chevrez and Linny are both fired.
As the captain of the Special Security and Surveillance Patrol, I hereby declare you as a suspect in the case.